This one and this one. Good. Good. I think I've got everybody. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland. And I am just thrilled to have a wonderful and talented, Gary Wet. He'll be back, I'm sure. A black cookie.
Yes, Tiger.
There you are. There you are. You know, I think we should start, Gary. Ladies, forgive me. I'm an old guy. I like to say ladies first, but a little bit about yourself and a synopsis of a black and white cookie.
Well, I'm very blessed to work with such remarkable talent, as you see on the screen. And ultimately, the beauty of being a playwright is that you give it to other people to interpret and breathe it to life. And as you know, I write novels, and then it's my name's on it, good or bad. But to work with people and see how they bring things to life is wonderful. So I'm just going to turn over to them. I'll just say a black and white cookie won the Broadway World Award when it opened in October at Silver Spring Stage outside Washington. And it's a story about that there's more that unites us than divides us, which I think is really important without being at all preachy. And we see that through the unlikely and powerful friendship between Harold Wilson, played by Russell Jordan, and Albie Sands, played by J. Dolan Byrnes. And Russell is a conservative African-American newsstand owner who finally opens up his East Village newsstand after the COVID lockdown, only to get hit by an exorbitant rent increase. And he has to close and move to Florida with his niece, Carol Wilson, played by Roslyn Seale. So enter Albie Sands, who's a Meshuggah 1960s style communist who persuades Russell. There we go.
For listeners, just showed his the Che Guevara. And I remember those.
To take on the system and all that. So again, please turn it over to these wonderful people with whom I'm so blessed to work.
Excellent, excellent. And again, we've got links up, louisfreeshow.com, louisbfree.com, and wfmj.com about the premiere. So ladies, I'm going to start. I've got to do, again, I know we did Gary first, but ladies first. Roslyn, good morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, good morning. I am a Brooklyn native, born and raised Brooklyn, New York. And I've actually been involved with this project pretty much since the beginning. I mean, I don't know if there was a reading or anything before, but I was also playing Carol Wilson in the production that was supposed to open up before the lockdown.
Acting for you? Tell us.
Yeah, I've been performing professionally for 13 years, I want to say. Originally mostly musical theater, but nowadays I would say more straight theater, commercials, and some TV, getting into that arena.
And what drew you into acting?
I have to say, just being a kid from the city, you know, I was really lucky. My junior high school had a performing arts magnet, which was in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. And then I also went to Edward R. Murrow High School in Brooklyn, which is really known for their theater program. We did 4 shows a year, 2 plays, 2 musicals. And it was just an amazing high school to go to. And that made me just like, it kind of solidified that that's what made me most happy, was being involved in the theater.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Marina, good morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Yes, my name is Marina Rebecca Chan, and I am a Brooklyn-based playwright and performer. I also have a special soft spot for musicals, which are what originally made me fall in love with theater ever since I saw the revival of South Pacific at Lincoln Center when I was only 13 years old. And after seeing that production, I caught the theater bug. Wow. But the problem was I wanted and saw myself as Nellie Forbush. And then I looked into the mirror and I realized I could never play her because I am Asian American. So it was this whole identity crisis that I went through. But I soon did realize that if I did really want to pursue this career, that as an Asian, I would also have to focus on writing parts for Asians and other underrepresented minorities. So in college, I majored in drama and theater arts and did my concentration in playwriting. And then a little bit after I graduated, I actually worked at the Performing Arts Department at Asia Society here in New York. And I conceived and produced a series of panel discussions on Asian Americans in theater with focus on representation and inclusion, equity, and it involved some pretty cool professional theater artists and scholars. So that was pretty exciting. And then I did a rewrite of my senior thesis play, which I was extremely passionate about. And the very day that it was scheduled to have a big staged reading, lockdown happened, all of Broadway closed. It was literally that exact date, the now infamous March 12th, 2020. And I'm really excited to be a part of this production because this is literally the first time that I am acting again in person since COVID, or the start of COVID, since I think we're still in it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so also. Who knows?
Yeah, but it's been a great process of getting to work with all of these fantastic fellow actors and director and playwright. So I'm very, very fortunate for this experience.
That's wonderful. And by the way, as far as COVID, what I've been saying since the very early days, the one thing I know for sure is no one really knows for sure. So we'll just, hopefully, but we'll pass on. Let me get past that for a little bit. Rollando, good morning to you.
Introduce me? Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have since elementary school knew I wanted to be in show business. I won't regale you. The cast has heard so many of these stories anyway. But it was an early age. I knew I worked for it through theater, and my first directing experience was directing seniors in high school in my church, and then being selected at my high school to be the production stage manager and assistant to the director because he felt I could do that. I wasn't interested in being in the play. I wanted to direct it, and that was a great education for me. And that from there on and on, I've directed Kennedy Center and other much smaller places. But it's been a great career. I'm in and out of New York City. I was actually in Charlottesville, Virginia, on a directing assignment for 6 videos when suddenly, as Marina suggested, on March 11th, 2020, I guess, I realized and told the company we wouldn't be back until this thing is over. And we haven't finished that yet. We did get one video done before we closed down. And we have done one since with one actor and one cameraman and outside. But otherwise, we're still waiting to finish that safely. But it's been grand. I direct theater, I direct on camera. I love working with actors, especially this cast. And they know, excuse me, I've mentioned this many times. They are so incredibly good at what they do that they make me look good. So there it is.
I love that. They make you look good. Let me ask, what is it about directing for you?
Well, it's not an ego trip, as some people may think. I never thought of it as being superior in any way because I'm an actor too. I was on Another World for 10 years as Franco. And I do, because I work on camera a lot directing, you know it's a collaboration. In theater, it is true that the director's hand is a little heavier in other ways, but still, I think it's, here's my philosophy. The cast can bear me out, they've heard it. I look at what the playwright wrote. I read it, I study it. I think in my head what this is going to look like. And then I walk into the first rehearsal and I see the actors, this cast, and the way they talk, the way they move, the way they express themselves, that colors my initial interpretation. It all mixes up and that's what comes out. And that's what's happened. Very much so. And many things that are in the show now that are very different from my initial concept, and many things that are enhanced my initial idea. But it truly it comes easier with this cast than many to do a good job.
That's interesting. Dolan, good morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Good morning, and thanks for having us.
I'm
Um,
honored
I'm
to have. Go ahead.
I'm an actor and singer. I am Brooklyn based now. I grew up in Massachusetts, and um, got hooked with theater when I was cast as a 70-something-year-old professor in The Student Prince in a high school production. Um, and in college, I was a political science major and a theater minor. And I ended up, I've been a professional actor for about 32 years at this point in time. But prior to that, I was involved in politics. I worked for a member of Congress, and um, and then one day when I was in Los Angeles, I ran into someone and hooked up and auditioned and got cast, and that was the end of that. It never stopped from that point. Um, I've done a lot of musicals. I toured nationally in 1776. I did a lot of musicals on the West Coast, but I've come to the point where, as much as I love musicals, I'd rather be doing a serious piece of drama. I know this is going to come out wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'd rather be doing a serious piece. I get cast constantly. I don't know why. I don't think I'm funny, but I get cast constantly in these comedic roles, and I find that the role of Albie is this wonderful amalgam of both comedy and some really serious drama. So it's a role I absolutely adore.
What is it about that you want to do serious drama as opposed to the other, comedy or musicals? What do you think it
Well,
is?
it's the thing about this play that it truly has something to say to society, about society at this very point in time. Um, and that's what I consider a really serious
Point.
piece of theater. Um, granted, a lot of musicals do that. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are pure entertainment, which is a fabulous thing. It's a wonderful thing too. I prefer at this point to be doing this type of a piece.
Thank you for that. Matt, good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for, sorry, let me turn off the
Believe me,
AC here.
I'm
Um,
I'm honored to have you all. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm honored to be here
Thank
and
you.
honored to be with this wonderful team of people. I'm from Detroit, Michigan originally, born and raised. We did not have an arts program at all, really. At my high school, which in turn made us organize shows on our own. I organized shows with student groups. Growing up, that's sort of how I caught the bug. We did our own plays. We did a play about the city of Detroit, and then we did the Diary of Anne Frank, which was a really big deal for us. And then I did Oliver as well. I played Fagin, so I think that's where I sort of caught the bug in high school. And then I went to the University of Michigan and graduated from the acting program there in 2016, and that was a wonderful school. I got to do Chekhov and Shakespeare and Tracy Letts, a lot of great playwrights there. And graduated in 2016 from the acting program, then moved here, and I've been doing it ever since. I actually am a singer as well. I did, before the pandemic, I used to do, because I'm Italian American, I used to do a Dean Martin one-man show.
Wow.
And it was about the life of Dean Martin, and I would sing songs to go with the decades of his career, and I did that at different venues in the city. And then the lockdown happened, but I'm happy to announce that I will be possibly doing it again here in late August. I'm looking at venues, so I'm looking forward to that. And I got my equity card through that, doing that show. So that's me in a nutshell. And it's really exciting to be back on stage with this cast. I learn from these actors every day. I'm not just saying that. It's a really, really strong cast. So
Thank you for that. It's interesting that so many of you, you were young, you kind of knew the direction. I think that's incredible. Russell, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you and to everyone. Thanks for having us again. I'll say it again.
I'm delighted.
Thank you. Russell Jordan, born and raised in New York. I was raised in Jamaica, Queens. I've been living in Brooklyn now for the past 20 some odd years. Part of the New York City public school system, the CUNY system, my degrees in speech with a concentration in theater, actually a 9/11 survivor. Got out of the building a few minutes before the building collapsed, before the North Tower collapsed. Working my day job, doing my thing, I kind of put acting to the back. And then I had bumped into one of my friends one day on the subway who I studied undergrad with. And he goes, "So what are you doing with that acting degree?" And I told him, I said, "Hey, this is New York. You got bills to pay." And he said, "I don't think God meant for you to get out of that building just to go back to work." So that's where we are. That's how it got rekindled, I should say. So fast forward, I have worked with a whole bunch of people. I mean, Dolan and I, we worked on projects in the past together. I've been fortunate enough to be introduced to this piece. Gary reached out to me during the pandemic. He said, "Hey, do you want to be in a reading?" Because I heard about the stage play again before it was when it was supposed to go up before the pandemic, and then things happened. But through good fortune, Gary reached out to me and said, "Hey, are you available to participate in what theater looks like now?" Which was Zoom at that point. So, and I did that. I did a few readings, and now fast forward, we're here with Marcello and connected with a whole group of people. And it's just been a wonderful opportunity to really get out from behind these cameras and get back on the stage. And there have been many, many times where I'm just like, wow, been doing a lot of TV acting of late. And to have Marcello guide us and direct us to go, "Hey, remember, you have people in the back of that stage that are listening to you." And it's just been a wonderful experience to slowly get back to what it was, and hopefully looking forward as to what it can be, which is getting audiences back in the theater and back into the seats.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. A quick question about a 9/11 survivor, if you don't mind. I every year around that time, I do numerous interviews and shows about that. Some of the Jersey, what they call the Jersey girls whose husbands were killed, et cetera. And a few years back, it hit me that the kids graduating high school were either not quite yet born or they were very, very young. Do you get concerned at all that people will forget? I hate to say forget. No one that's alive is going to forget, but that it just doesn't.
I had that realization a couple of years ago when I still worked at now the new World Trade Center. And I saw at that time a bunch of kindergartners. And I said, wow, they have no idea. And then looking at their teachers, I'm like, my goodness, their teachers may not have any idea. So will people forget? Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
Disturbing.
It's disturbing. I have been sitting on going back and forth trying to tell my 9/11 story, and have just never had a real opportunity to figure out when would be the right time, because there's always a major anniversary or something. And I'm like, it's not the right time because I want to do a comedy. And I'm just like, I don't know if the audience wants to hear that right now. I don't know if we want to laugh. I think like we need to laugh. I know that humor moves us through things. It gets us through life. It gets us through these dark times. But that's my challenge. I will get that play written one day. But yeah, I think that we all have a burden to make sure that these moments are not lost. But we as a society now, I mean, my goodness, COVID, right? I mean, COVID has just reshaped what's important, and just it seems like every so often now there's this new next big thing that takes up our collective focus. So yes, 9/11 happened, but let's be real. It's been over 20 years, and that is it's a long time. But yeah, enough about that.
No, I appreciate that. And by the way, if you want to do the gig with me closer to 9/11, I'd love to have you back and talk more about your story if you're up for that. So a black and white cookie, and Gary, I've got to come back to you, Gary Moore. You wrote this. What is it like to see it? I don't know if I should come alive. What is that like for you?
Theater is magical. And when I originally wrote it, the production that Roslyn was starring in the same role as Carol, once it got postponed, and I said, okay, I'm going to put it up on Zoom now, because as Russell said, that was the new theater. That's all we had. And I looked at it and I said, okay, I've got to layer in COVID, because it's not about COVID, but you can't make a contemporary play now not reflect COVID. For example, there's one scene in an alley where one of the characters looks sick. And now in the original, it was just he had a sinus infection or whatever. Said, no one's going to buy that now. Of course you're going to say, oh my God, you have COVID. So I laid it and updated it there. I think what's important, and no, sorry, take that back, because I don't want to say what's important, because that's up to the audience to decide what's important. I think what you try to do in situations like this is, yes, everyone's saying it is about, we look at society, that's what we artists do. We, thousands of years, you go back to the ancient Greeks, we said, you're wrong, stop doing it. Probably went back further than that. People going, nah, to the pharaohs, not being too successful about it, okay? And that's what artists do. But as artists, we're supposed to stand up and talk truth as best we can. But I think, especially in these times, we have to show a way forward without being preachy, without saying, yes, you must do this, without saying this is right or wrong, but at least nudging the audience. So we show this can't go on. We can't just yell. Okay, we've got to listen. And I think that's what everyone here is trying to do in a more subtle way, to say, okay, can we just take a breath and treat each other as people?
And that it's wonderful, because as you say, that the yelling at each other, and the way everything is portrayed in this country these days is disturbing to me, because I find that I wonderful. And again, I don't know if it has to do with my old age or COVID, but the little interactions impact me a lot. Just nice little human interactions that I have when I'm out again. And that's most people. I just don't believe the hype that everybody hates each other. And although there are people that hate each other, there are people that scream and yell, yet what you do with the black and white cookie will certainly have people, I believe, look in the mirror and examine themselves. A number of you are shaking your head yes. So who wants to tell me about that?
I mean, you're bringing to the table all of your baggage from your life, all your past experiences, right? And that informs all the relationships that you have with the others in your world. And you see through these people that they are coming into these spaces, into these experiences with that baggage. And it's just beautiful to watch how they navigate it. And my character, especially, you have these aha moments, and it does take some work to get there. But that's the beauty of this piece, because you, like, to your point about, seeing yourself, and you do. And we hope, at least I hope, that audiences will see, they can see how their past interactions with their other fellow humans are not helping us collectively, are not helping us move society forward.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Matt, you were nodding your head also for listeners. Matt was nodding his head about the impact of it. What can you tell us for you?
Yeah, I just think it's a really powerful show. It's a powerful message coming out of such divisive times. I mean, not coming out of, we're still in such divisive times. I think people now more than ever need a show like this that reflects real New Yorkers. That it doesn't. What I like so much about the script is that it doesn't pull any punches. It's very honest, and it's stuff that I've certainly heard before in my life, and I think it's important for people to hear in the theater right now.
Dolan, for you, the impact of a black and white cookie?
Wow, that's a big broad question. Albie is a character who believes to his core that we all are created equal. He doesn't, I mean, he sees it, but he doesn't, I believe, have a racist bone in his body. He really truly believes that everyone, men, women, they're all equal. He's a communist. And that everyone who contributes to a society should be given their fair share of the benefits of that society, which is something that doesn't really happen in this country for everyone. But even Albie at times has to confront. He has a major confrontation with Carol, and it's really powerful because all of a sudden here he is, everybody's ally, and then all of a sudden he starts feeling very attacked because he is not even a religious Jew, but a Jew by birth. I won't give away. Can I say one of the lines? Is that all right? No? Okay, never mind.
No,
I won't.
no. Who
No?
said no? Oh,
Okay.
no, okay, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. But even Albie has to confront. He has a very angry reaction to being attacked. Something that even when I first read the script is like, I didn't see this in this guy, but he is really angry now. He's super angry. He's not the I love everybody and everybody is equal guy at certain points in the play, and he has to grapple with that. And he has to grapple with the fact that some people who are part of the quote unquote capitalist class can end up being decent people as human beings, and which is not something he goes around espousing in his days of sloganeering. But yeah, it forces all of us to literally look in the mirror, everybody. And I think we're all hoping that that's what it will do to the audience too, is to have themselves look at themselves in the mirror and say, where am I in this societal spectrum, and how am I reacting, and how am I treating others?
Oh, I love that. Roslyn, for you, tell us.
Yeah, I mean, this is not giving anything away, but I think my character has probably the biggest journey. And that's always been the case from the moment I auditioned for the piece. I don't know, was it January or February 2020? Really figuring out how to make that transition, but also recognizing that we all have biases against different people. Like anybody that's saying things like, oh, I'm colorblind, I don't see color. It's like, we all have a bias for whatever reason it might be. Just some random bad experience you had with one person. And because you lived in an area that was very homogeneous, you just thought everybody was like that. We all have those types of biases and stereotypes. So, I mean, I think it is important that to be in a show where it's showing that, and not in a judgmental way, in a matter of fact way, is what we do as humans. And, realizing that you can actually, you can get past that and actually see people for who they actually really are.
What would you say about that, Marina?
I completely agree with what everyone else said in terms of just seeing people for people, not seeing or fitting anyone into a box or pigeonholing anyone. That brings me to speak about my own character in the play Pham. She is Harold's landlord. She is Vietnamese American. What's interesting is she, I guess, does in the play represent capitalist America, although she herself is a minority. But she has worked very hard to get to where she has gotten to as a successful businesswoman. But we have to remember that, she came from an immigrant family. She has constantly had to fight against and struggle against female and Asian discrimination. And what's interesting is that she actually very much respects Harold as a businessman himself. So I feel in the scene that she is in, there is an unspoken mutual admiration between the two of them. And where that leads us to, folks, you're gonna have to come see the play.
And see it where, Gary?
At the Tank Theater, West 36th Street in Manhattan, right off 8th Avenue. We premiere July 14th through July 28th with 8 performances.
That's wonderful. And I've got those links up also at wfmj.com, louisbfree.com, and louisfreeshow.com. You can go directly for more information. What's it like for this opening, Gary, in New York?
Well, it's challenging to do theater in the time of COVID. We've all been experiencing that. It's not as easy as it used to be. But when you still have such professionals like this, people just somehow you power through. You somehow get it done. It's like just grinding the ball towards the goal line sometimes. And then you just want the magic, because ultimately you're going to sit there and you don't know how the audience is going to react. You don't know what they'll be touched by. I mean, we might say, well, of course, this, right? We don't know who's going to laugh at the jokes. Of course, being an erotic playwright, everyone will be masked. So will I hear them laugh loudly? No, I'll say, oh God, it's just terrible, But seriously, it's the audience that's going to be there and as theater is, and accept this world that we've created. Will accept the fourth wall. And that's why Zoom is wonderful.
Yeah.
But we need
Nothing.
real
Yeah.
theater again.
Yeah. Nothing like actually being there with others. And I think that's going to be a wonderful experience. Again, Zoom is great. It's great to be able to do plays on Zoom when you couldn't do them live, but this is going to be a different experience for everyone. I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled for you, Gary. I'm thrilled for you all. I think it's going to be I know it's going to be so powerful. Marcello, for you, if you don't mind, directing a play that is, I'm not saying others aren't as important, but that has such a powerful message.
Well,
What's it like for you?
I look for that, so it's not an accident that I said yes. I am the reasonable voice. I have a political following, and that's what I do when I am not doing my first love. So I'm very happy to hear about all the political opinions of the cast, because we don't necessarily discuss politics when we are, sorry, I just need a little drink. When we are rehearsing, it is so focused. And goodness, I am an exacting director, which some people have to adjust to, but this cast has flowed. And what impresses, one of the things I want to make certain I say, what has impressed me with this cast of actors is that some have done this before and more than once, and yet they accept this new guy walking in and saying, okay, let's do this, this, and this. And very often in rehearsals, I will say to them what I believe will happen. You must give a moment here, because the audience, in what you've just done, the audience is going to need a moment to realize, oh my God, that's me up there. That's us. And I know that's going to happen by the way these guys are working. These characters are strong. I've just started, before returning to New York City, we're in the beginning, as a matter of fact, very beginning, but we have the funding, and the board is being built, and it's a nonprofit that specifically addresses how the arts can help us see each other differently, see each other as human beings and as equals. And diversity is not a crime, for heaven's sake. Differences are what make life interesting. So I was in the throes of that, and I shouldn't say throes because it's going well, when Gary called me and asked if I wanted to do the play. He had sent me the play. I read it and I loved it, and let him know my opinions and so forth, and sent it back, and that was that. But about a week or so later, he called and asked if I would direct it, and I was happy to, because it fits perfectly into what this mission is for this new nonprofit. And that is everybody has some creative gene in them, whatever that may be. And I'm not just talking about singing, dancing, acting, or playing an instrument, but a creative kernel in them. And if we can get them to express their differences through that creative channel, then you're not yelling and screaming anymore. If you are, it's in a monologue that you've written. You play a scene, and we get to see, as both audience and co-creators in this setting, we work through these things without ever making it an issue that I'm up there telling you what you need to do, but rather through your own creative work with someone who thinks very differently than you and their creative work, we come to some realization, as happens in this play, beautifully.
That's wonderful. Gary, somebody emailed me a question and something obviously I'd be interested. Oh, Roslyn, you got a split.
Hi, Roslyn.
I want to thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
So much
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Bye.
Thank you. Gary, I'm going to condense a couple of these for you. And we've talked about this before, the spark or the kernel, if you will. Where did it come from for you, for a black and white cookie in the writing process?
I could make up some highfalutin story about how God pressed his fingers to my head, and writers, I was at an in-laws party in New Jersey, and I was sitting there, and I had way too much baked ziti and red wine, and I was just, just kind of slightly slumped over, and the door to the other side opened, and in walked Harold, and in walked Albie. I'm sorry, that's how it is. And I don't know who opens the door on the other side. I respect it greatly because I don't want to piss them off and have them stop opening that door. And then they were there. And I said, oh, you guys are different. And it just literally just built from there. And when characters come to me, I accept their names. It's extremely rare I would ever change a name or who they are or their most defining characteristics. And then we dig deeper, like everyone on stage digs deeper. And that was it. What I really wanted to do, I wanted to play about prejudice, but I wanted to show it from the perspective of good people who have prejudiced views. Because to me, that's the grave danger to freedom and harmony. I can't remember the last time I saw a neo-Nazi outside my bagel shop in Brooklyn. It just hasn't happened very often. But it's the good people who look the other way, who say, right. Oh, well, you know how those people are. Yeah. Well, all of us are those people for whatever the reason. And so that's what I wanted to do. But I also, because we live in a society where if you dare explain something, you're targeted as agreeing with it. Well, no, we're just trying to understand. Hello, that's what, rational, intelligent people do. So trying to explain why they might be prejudiced without justifying it. Yeah, that's the third rail. And it's going to be interesting to see the response. What happens, how people will accept that or not.
That's interesting. I'll never forget when you told me a few years back, it had to be that the characters will tell you if you're writing something and they'll say, yes. The character will say, I wouldn't say that. And I bring that up with so many, when I get a novelist, I had a novelist on this morning and I asked her if that happens with her and her writing, because that was so powerful that they actually, your mind creates these characters that will tell you if that's something they wouldn't do.
Yeah. And it sounds precious, but it's the truth. And I'm sure, as you say, your other writers do. It's not just me, because writers are a little crazy, but but it really happens. And I can't tell you how many times I've written a scene, because you start with an idea, the scene should be about generally. And then it's completely different. It's like, whoa, how did that happen? But they've just taken over. It's like I don't know if actors have the same. I'd love to hear if there's something similar with acting.
That'd be great. Yeah. Who wants to weigh in on that? Don't make me call on you. Sorry. Marina, tell me about it for you.
Can you just repeat the question?
Gary, go ahead.
Yes. So when a writer creates, the characters take over. Do you feel when you act that the character's taking over from Marina or Russell and Dolan and Matt?
What do you think?
Well, definitely. What was interesting about this particular role was I did come in with my own interpretation, and then Marcello ended up having a different interpretation. So in the beginning, it was a little bit hard for me to adjust, but it was a very, very good process and interesting and very good learning process of trying to make that adjustment so that I did Marcello's interpretation, which then allowed me, obviously, to discover more about this character than I had ever discovered on my own. And so, yeah, once you kind of uncover one layer, you're delving deeper and deeper and finding all of these other layers. And that process definitely takes over for sure, where unbeknownst to you, you're actually really starting to embody this character, and which at a certain point actually feels like it's happening on its own, sort of automatically. Wow. After you dove so deep into this scene, into the script, and also seeing how other actors have embodied their characters. So for sure, it might be a little bit hard in the beginning, but then you have this sort of pace that definitely, in my opinion, takes over.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I would agree with Marina. It's an amalgamation, I think, of for me, finding the similarities that I have with the character and going from that place of truth, and then coming into the rehearsal space and seeing the vision that the director has as well, and trying to combine those things and create the character that the playwright intended, that's also a part of you. I think, I feel strongly that you have to work, for me at least, from within, and the similarities that you have. So it becomes a little bit of the character, a little bit of you, and a little bit of the director and the play, or whatever the project is. Yeah, it's a good mixture, and I'm lucky to work with people who are very clear. I think ultimately actors really want to know what the director wants. They don't want to have to solve that mystery. So I'm happy to be working with Marcello. Because he knows what he wants out of it, and there's no games being played. It's very clear.
Interesting. Dolan, for you?
I want to second what Marina and Matt both said. Also for me, there's a lot of Albie that is me as a person. There's a lot of Albie. There's a lot of Albie that is not me. But part of my process is, and some actors do this, a lot of actors do this actually, is to create a story that you will never see on the stage during the production, but you create an entire life, a back life for this character. Where they come from, where the grandparents come from, who the parents were like, what they were like, who they were, what they did, how they treated you, the character. And so all of that plays into, while you're preparing for the role and memorizing the lines, all of that plays into the development of the character. And I think that ultimately you do become the character. And that is Albie on the stage, and not Dolan on the stage. If it all comes together as it should, or as I hope it will.
I'm sure it will. Russell, for you?
I'm going to echo a lot of what was said before. It really is yourself on the stage, and that what is needed, what you bring to the stage that's in support of the story, and dialing up and dialing down those aspects of yourself that are of service to the story and are in service to the character you need to play. There are some things about this guy that even right now I'm like, oh right, that part of myself, I need to tap into that more, because that's what's needed here. That's what aspect of myself that I admittedly am sometimes afraid of, that I need to now lean into more, because it supports the story and everything. But like what everyone has said, it's a chemistry, an alchemy, a calculus, when you have the work that you're doing from the inside versus the work that comes from your director, and also just listening to your castmates, and that, to use to say what Marcello says all the time about the pinball just bouncing off each other, and just listening and seeing it, and see how you react to all these external stimuli, and then how you internalize that and what you bring. It's fun. It's a great process. It's a nerve-wracking process, but like everyone has said, what you're seeing put on that stage right now is just a beautiful work, and it's the result of everyone collaboratively working together to support Gary's story.
That's I'm absolutely fascinated by that. So Marcello, as the director, when Marina was talking about how she had a concept, and I'm paraphrasing, Marina, of what the character was, and you directed her, opened up to something a bit different. Where does that come from in the director? Do you have like a sense of how it should be, or again, this is you all.
Well, I have my own opinion where it comes from. I will never doubt that where it comes from, and I will never forget to give that source credit. We're all put here for a reason, and some of us for more than one reason. We all have a talent, some of us have many talents, but the source is the same for all of us. Whatever's speaking to us, whispering in our ear in the middle of the night or morning prayers, whatever it is, if you are open to that, you will be your most creative self. And there are moments still in this play and the actors know it. I'm not going to give anything away. Where they are right now, this is ready for performance. But they know I'm sitting out there going, they think we're finished. But we're not. And I've dropped a couple of hints, at least to one actor who, because, and I think this makes the point that I want to make about what everyone was saying. You know, as I say, it's, you look at the playwright's words, you look at your life, you listen to what the director says, and you mix it all up like vegetable soup, and that's what we're after. Well, they've also been saying how they work and how they internalize, and I think I've just lost my point, but oh, I know. But a lot of them said things that about, you know, how they become the character eventually. I couldn't agree more, that's there. But here's the thing that's most difficult for any actor to do, and I know because I'm an actor. You reach a point, and one actor in the show in particular, this has happened to different ones, different times. I don't know what's with my throat today. I don't usually sound like an old man. But you reach a point in the show where we've built things, and what is happening in this moment is a very, very good thing that has traveled a millennium. And yet, the one thing that's holding it back, the one little piece more we need, is because it is too close to the actor playing it. That's when you go, and you know, because that's the last hurdle for any of us. I'll give you an analogy: The Natural, the film, Robert Redford, and he goes through everything, all the story won't open, but at the end, boom, 2 strikes. What's he going to do? He's going to make it. He's got it. He'll get it. He'll win. It's a movie. He doesn't get to first. He has to come back, and his magic bat is broken. There is always, for every character, for every playwright, for every actor, there's always that one last thing, that one last challenge that is thrown your way. And it's not a magic bat, it's you. Now, when you get that, you'll realize that. Now be that. And that's where we are. And I have no worries about it. It's a joy to watch. And I know those I'm talking about know who they are. But you know, that's where we are, and it's a wonderful place to be. It is absolutely, when you step off that, you know, what is it, Indiana Jones, and he steps off the crevice and lands on what is an invisible walk, that leap of faith, as we Roman Catholics say. But it does come only when we go, okay, I have used my technique, my craft, what the director says, what's happening from other people, but now this moment is me. And I've got to live with that. I've got to reveal it. I've got to let the audience see it. And when we do, there's nothing stopping us there.
Wonderful. I appreciate you all explaining that. And Gary's got to be very exciting for you, for all of you, certainly, to open in New York next week. A real quick question. As much experience as you all have had, do you get nervous before? Yes, everybody? A little bit, somewhat?
Nervousness drives performance.
Exactly.
Wow.
I think it's the difference between being good and being great. I really think it's you use it. Just use it.
Use it to propel you forward.
And it's true for directors too. I walk in the first day of a rehearsal, I'm nervous, but it ends the moment we click, we start working. It goes away, but it has fed that. It feeds the creation.
Oh, you all blow me away. This is fantastic, and lucky people that are going to be in New York next week to be able to see a black and white cookie. And as it gets closer, Gary, for you?
Yes, well, I'm just excited to see it on stage. It's going to be wonderful. That's it. We just want to touch people. That's it. We're not changing the world. You just want to have the audience leave with they felt something in here. That's if you've touched another person this much in this world,
just a little bit.
How wonderful is that, right?
Yeah.
How wonderful is that?
And it makes a difference.
It
It
does.
certainly makes a
It
difference.
adds up.
Well, Marina, Marcello, of course, Dolan, Matt, Russell, and Gary, my friend Gary Morgenstein. What an honor. Again, I keep saying an honor. It's truly an honor to talk with you all about this. And it's just, again, just opened my mind to so many things that I wouldn't, again, I'm not an actor. I can't imagine having to be somebody other than you. You all have such great talent. It's incredible. And again, one more time, truly an honor to have you all on. It's got to be very exciting. So thank you all for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
you
you all.
for having
Thank you all.
us.
And Gary,
Thank you.
thank you
Bye-bye.
too, the writer. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland, and we are copyright B.